I love it when people make insane arguments and accuse you of things like being lazy. For instance, all I had to do was finish a bathroom. And if I did that, I'd probably still be happily married. Now that's some sort of paraphrased quote that the judge threw out behind a closed door that then was parroted to me by my $5,000 mouthpiece that did a shit job representing me. She sucked. She is grotesquely negligent. Grotesquely negligent, if not willfully incompetent. She had faith in a system. What kind of person has faith in a system that's worked in that? You gotta hang out in Summit County Domestic Court for 20 minutes and you can realize how completely corrupt and broken it is. Go talk to anybody who's been through it. It's not because divorce is hard, although it is. It's because of how dysfunctionally broken the system is. But get ready for this logic. A roof was put on. The wrong size nails were used. It didn't go all the way through what was sitting up there, so all sorts of parts were falling out and missed on tabs and things like that. The gutters were clogged because it had the screens, and then you get like you know, like the trees with a little bit of helicopter stuff and the debris, and it just builds up on it. It didn't blow off. It grew life. It had its own ecosystem and had to get scrubbed out and unclogged. Reinstall the leaf gutters. All the downspouts didn't go to the street, so I had to dig out and re-get that drain pipe working. Aerated the yard monthly for a year. Mowed and trimmed the grass weekly or whenever it needed it to make it look beautiful. Trimmed 4 trees, ornamental trees, each year in the spring and the fall. Removed 5 mature trees from the backyard. Professional plumbers were unable to fix the drain, because if you fix the drain, then you don't get to sell them on the $5,000 job of digging up the whole front yard like the neighbors. So on a holiday weekend, I rented the tool, cleared out the drain, put down a little copper sulfate. The whole thing is working great. And cleaned up the basement that was scrubbed up with shit. Didn't get to enjoy the holiday with the weekend. And anyhow, demold the basement. Oh yeah, it was filled with mold. And so I gutted. The entire basement was finished. Gutted the whole thing. Sprayed the whole thing and scrubbed everything down to get the mold off of stuff. What else? Move and empty the house. People who are irresponsible, people who aren't competent, people who have been enabled for years, people who haven't done enough, like they can't appreciate you because they literally haven't done enough to know what it is to appreciate. Just left years and years of shit behind. And when I say years, I'm talking about jarred lunches that some lady put in a jar in the 60s were still sitting there in the 2000s in a basement untouched. It was stunning the amount of crap that was left behind. So moved it and emptied it, removed and threw out a piano, changed the guts over of all the toilets in the house. She couldn't get the heating system up and working. Called a couple of professional companies. It wasn't working as good as it could. So I went through. They didn't have any bleeder valves where they should to bleed out the system. Some of the solenoids to open and close were wired incorrectly, so they weren't actually opening and closing. Because of how the system is designed, you got to go up and you got to bleed out the individual moments. All the fins on the radiators had never been cleaned, filled with cat hair. Scrub it and clean it all out. Like, it was a solid, like, 40 hours of work, and then they worked great, you know. And then there's the idiot usage where you're not used to a radiator, so you don't turn it on and let it run. And when it's too warm, just open up the windows a little bit early in the year, you know. Think back, like, to those old schools and commercial buildings. So if you wait until it's cold and then turn it on, it's no good. Oh, yeah, installed brackets and blocking in the attic. For ceiling fans, so the whole second floor could have ceiling fans, which would help make the radiators work more efficiently. The electrics in the house were completely hosed. Like when they were installed, people put in staples that shorted out the wires, and that would cause the panel to trip. So they just took the neutral out on the circuit and just ran a hot over to it and just left it on. It's surprising, like it did char the wire. Like I removed burnt pieces of wire and Romex out of the basement. So I removed the old electrical panel, installed a new electrical panel with a whole house surge, had to install a grounding system. The meter was incorrect, fixed that. Its installation was incorrect, fixed that. Grounded it, which wasn't correct. All the copper in the house, like everything, the drain feeds, beautiful. Copper to cast iron. All the feeds to the boiling system are all copper. It was really well done. None of it was grounded. None of it. It's insane. So grounded out that system. There weren't shut-off valves for so that you could like the gaskets and the shut-off valves for the boiler were all old and needed to be taken apart and repacked. There was a shed in the backyard that was rotting and falling apart. Took that apart and dug it all out. 3 more dead trees and an old spit rail fence. 70, there were these sandstone pencils, you know, like a 6x4 that's maybe 5 foot long out of sandstone. She didn't want any of them. And so there were 70 of them that I had to take out and remove. Removed 3 cubic yards of dirt that was put on top of the back patio, since the back of the house was constantly flooding, and the guy who built it was like an architect or some sort of engineer. He put in 3 versions of a French drain, and it constantly failed. And his finished basement was constantly flooding and weeping fluid, and the driveway had fallen more than 6-7 inches just from the erosion taking place underneath the entire slab. I don't mean part of the slab, I mean the entire slab. I treated the whole thing for insects. Removed the brick. There was like this big brick thing with around those 3 cubic yards of dirt. Removed all of that. Cleared the clogged vent stacks on all the drain pipes in the house. Dug an exploration pit to figure out what's going on in the backyard. So I rented a 20-ton track hoe over a holiday weekend, because then you only got to pay for 1 day. And then I was on it Friday night. Saturday morning by 8 a.m. I was on it, got off of it Saturday night about 9:30. Sunday morning got on it at 9 a.m. and then ran it until like 8:30, 9 at night. And then Monday, since it was a holiday, I ran it all day from 8 in the morning until 9 at night. And then Tuesday they come and pick it up. And what it enabled me to do was to dig up the entire backyard 10 feet down, and found that the drainage pipes from the other house that was built half a century earlier, every time it rained, all the water from that house drained into the side of the foundation of this house. And there was this huge plate of shale sitting there, so that all the rain that hit in the backyard ran against the house. So I dug it up and was able to break 2 holes in it and make the entire backyard into like a swimming pool basement with 2 drain holes in the back. Broke up the rock, put the rock in the bottom, and then the nutter that lived there before constantly put all his kitty litter back out into his garden bed. So all that gray, weird dirt, that went into the bottom of it. And then I put in this huge, beautiful commercial French drain, so that the idea being that as it rains a whole lot, there's room in the basin to hold the water so that trees and plants can still, you know, have success. But then as the water comes up, you hit not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5 French drain lines coming across the top. So as its ability to drain isn't keeping up with the flow rate, you have more and more capacity to move water out to the street, so that your basement will be dry for the first time ever. And it totally worked. And it was a long project. It wasn't short, because if you dig up, like, it was just the summer. But if you dig up that backyard and get into it that much, you would be foolish not to be certain that you completely identified the problem and removed all of it, you know. And you want to allow time for things to compact and settle, so that then when the yard's finished, you don't have all sorts of weird things happening, you know. Treated the inside and outside numerous occasions for insects. Removed the 3 failed French drain systems, removed 3 yards of contaminated soil, and cement block and shit like that. Dug through 8 foot of shale in the backyard, mixing up the stone and using that as the filler. Installed 500 feet of French drain with silts, with a sock over the top of the slits. Installed 40 yards of stone with more than 500 foot of silt barriers, so that as the pit goes downhill, you have cloth fabric barriers going like this, so that if and when the system fails, it would be over a long time and very slow. Added a Schedule 40 4-inch drain of the gutters out to the curb. Cut the curb so that the drain lines could come through. Removed heaved and broken sidewalks, recycled it, graded the ground, put in stone and drainage lines underneath where the sidewalks would go, put in the forms for the sidewalks, installed 25 foot plus of raised sandstone, like on the sandstone pencils, did 25 foot of like a retainment wall on a step with a French drain underneath it and behind it, so that there would never be a hydraulic load pushing it forward, so it'll last at least 100 years. Planted grass in the backyard and fertilized and watered it. And I mean, I watered it like new baby grass each day, like it was a golf course, and that was my job. Moved and replanted 2 ornamental trees. Removed one of them that didn't make the transplant. Designed a fence for the backyard and located it. Priced it out. Shopped it. Moved a swing set from Streetsboro and rebuilt the swing set. Oh yeah, all the carpets were heavily stained. Nothing like old people in carpets, right? That's brutal. But then to have like all these nutters with cats on carpets. So I wasted more than 60 hours because I knew my kids are going to be down on that carpet, and she's not smart enough and she's too cheap and stupid to like replace the carpets. So I mean, I just steam cleaned them. So I would do 1 wash and 2 rinses so that you didn't build up a soap residue, you know. I add a little OxyClean to it and do it proper. And corrected the wiring, picked the room. Every room the wiring was wrong. It didn't come close to passing inspection. You couldn't make lights work. Like, it's not a little wrong, it was insanely wrong. Removed dining room light fixture, installed a new one, changed outlets in the entire house, correcting groundings, installed GFCIs every place where they should be, installed new light switches for the whole house, removed a light fixture in the family room, reinstalled new light fixture in the family room, pulled low voltage wiring for the alarm panel. There was like already an alarm system in there, but she wanted like a new one, so you know, pulled all those things because I was already there, and labeled them, corrected them, labeled and numbered all the wiring in the electric panels, so that like if you pull the faceplate off, there's a number on it that tells you what circuit's on the panel. If you look at the wires in the box, they're all numbered, and those numbers correlate to the number of the wire that's in the panel to make future serviceability really easily. Removed and installed a new thermostat, removed the old security panel, installed the new security panel, labeled all the wires, painted the living room, painted the dining room, painted the ceilings in that room. Every time the Wi-Fi, she wouldn't make her Wi-Fi work. She'd get on the phone, she'd talk to this customer service, she'd talk to that, she'd get all upset. She'd pay for a service for $300 to fix it. They couldn't fix it. And then she'd call up yelling and screaming at me, and I'd come over and I'd have it fixed in like 15 minutes. And I would write down a procedure so that she could fix it on her own, and to know when the next time it was, you know. And instead of saying thank you, she'd just be yelling and screaming and throwing a temper tantrum at me. And I was like, you know, you could just be nice and ask for a beer, and you would have saved yourself 4 hours of grief and $300. Now here's the brilliant kicker of all this. You know why I didn't get paid? I didn't get paid because at the end of the day, when you rewire a house, well, you're not an electrician. Why would I pay you to be an electrician? How insane is that? So all of that work that was done, I got $3,500 for that. Let me sit that again. You just listened to 13 minutes of me describing labor that I did for my ex-wife's mother, and she paid me $3,500 for that. And the same time, her daughter's running around talking about how horrible her life is because I didn't have a bathroom remodel finished. And then try to convince the court that it's because I don't have something finished on my house. And what's awesome about this is all the people and individuals who, while you're cooking all the meals, cleaning, not all, she would work between 6 and 8 days a month. So the day before she worked, she would cook and make a huge mess. So all the other days, I cooked all the other meals. I did all, not some of the laundry, all the laundry. I didn't do some of the housework. I did all the housework save 2 items. Put away clean folded laundry and pick up the 3rd floor. I paid all the bills and did the budget with my wife's pay, save 1. She was to pay the taxes. She didn't do that either. And then she's running around talking about how I don't finish projects at the house. Meanwhile, I'm doing all this shit up the street. Now, why would I do things for free to a 2nd generation child abuser? Because monsters can't help themselves. She's going to move into town. She's going to feed off the attention. She's going to tell endless lies. Endless lies trying to get all the neighbors and everybody else to believe what a monster I am, including my kids who are going to sit front and row center and watch this nonsense. So you know how you can help everybody understand what everything is that's going on? Charity. Kindness. Should not a son-in-law be willing to rebuild a house for his mother-in-law if he has the capability? Sure. Should that not give more reason for the wife who, when the tide goes out because you've made kids and you're spiraling some and having a hard time, should that not make it even more easy to celebrate and get back to wonderful times because of all this giving? Of course. Just because your partner is failing does not justify the excuse for you to fail. And as she talked that nasty trash, she just showed herself to be the fuckwit that she is to everybody, including my kids. That and, her literally screaming and cursing at them, not packing them the lunch, pushing them, hitting them, yelling at them, lying to them, just being all around. Like when your daughter spills water on a waterproof winter coat and she breaks out in tears and she's shaking from fear, crying because she got her coat wet. Because that's what her grandma teaches her. That's how a grandma thinks that a grandchild should behave. She's properly villainous. And that's how you show the world what it is she is. So, if you got a monster out there, give them charity. Give them kindness. They'll show the entire world exactly what they are. And you will set yourself free. Thank you very much for watching. And by the way, Cook, Judge Cook, shitty politician Cook, corrupt Cook, that sticks. I would like to use harsher words than that for the abhorrent piece of shit you are. Right? Like somebody wanted to pretend a house is unfit. Meanwhile, that house is literally winning awards from Keep Akron Beautiful for how great the improvement is. She didn't do any of that. And so I do all this labor up at the other house for free. Well, I guess it's not for free. It's $3,500. So I guess if you were paying me on wages based on the early 1800s, maybe it was appropriate. Maybe. Do better. You're not a better politician because you don't clean up and fix your mistakes. You're not less of a child-abusing grandparent because you continue parental alienation. You're not less shitty of a mom because you continue parental alienation. You are all active child abusers. You all care more about covering up your mistake than cleaning up your mistake, and that's not how monsters grow and get better. You are not the victim. You are the bully. You are not the victim. My children are the victim. You are not the victim. You are the bully. Clean up your mess. Fix your mess. Address your mess. Or continue to show the world and the neighbors that you willfully choose to continue to be child abusers. And let's see how much the humanity around you cares about you and your well-being.